Okay guys, more T-Rax plugins, and this is the T-Rax white channel. Right. When I was running through the 38 plugins in the collection in an earlier video in this playlist, I said that this is based on a 9000K channel strip from SSL. I've done a little bit of digging, and it's actually seems to be based on this. Which is a module. What's its exact name? It's got a number. I can't remember the number. XR625 or something like that. Anyway, look, it's a direct copy of the SSL 9000K Equalizer, which is what I said, but it's a module with E and G character switching, right? And this is the manual for it. So there's the channel strip. Okay, so at the top we've got a 1.5 to 22K high shelf, 1.5 to 22K. Then the upper mid here goes from 0.6, 600 Hz to 7K, 0.6 to 7K. The low mid goes from 0.2, 200 Hz to 2K, 2.2, 200 Hz to 2K. And the low shelf goes from 40 Hz to 600 Hz. 40 to 600. On the original, this switch here, you would switch in for the G EQ, and out you get the E EQ, and they've got different characteristics. The G is tighter. It's got a tighter, the two mid peak bands tighten up. They get peakier the more you boost. Whereas that's in G mode. Whereas in E mode, they're more rounded. That's regardless of how you set the Q here, right? But at full boost they both give exactly the same peakiness. Okay, and then if we look at the frequency map, or the plot map of the shelves here, so when the E default is shelving down, it just shelves gently down, or when it boosts, it shelves gently up, right? Shelves up, shelves down. But when you switch to G mode, when you're shelving up, it dips just before the shelf frequency and then shelves up. And if you're cutting, it gives a little bump just before the shelf frequency and then cuts. And you hear that. You do hear that. So look, let's I've got a little loop going here, right? Let's take the dynamics out. Okay, so let's reset. Let's go with the two peak bands here. So let's stick with this one at 700 Hz. If I give it about 10 dB of boost, 9 dB of boost. Okay, it's not full boost, it's about halfway, just over halfway. Leave the Q at its center default setting. I'm here, that's 700 Hz being boosted. Now if I switch to G mode, it'll be a bit tighter. Yeah? And then if we go with the upper mid here, let's have that at 3K. Give it again about 9 dB of boost, not full, at the default Q. And again, when I switch to G, it'll be peakier. That's correct. But when they're both at full boost, they should sound identical. Okay, so this one at 3K at full boost, when it's in E or G mode, it should sound the same, near as damn it. Bit less loudness. Correct, they got that good. And the same with the 700, full boost, it should sound the same whether in E or G mode. Correct, but if you lower it down, less gain, then you hear the difference in peakiness between E and G. And the same on the upper band there. Not full boost, and it's peakier in G. Okay, now the shelf's a bit more subtle. If I put this at let's put it at 6K and give it full boost. Switch to G mode. It's just a bit lower. Let's try 5K. When you switch to G, it just sounds more sharp, because what's happening is it's dipping down before it boosts, which puts more accent on the boost frequency of 5K. It is subtle, but if I cut, you'll hear it even more. Because when I'm cutting with a shelf in G mode, of 5K we're cutting with a shelf. So at 5K it comes along and then does a bump and then cuts down from 5K. So that bump just at 5K where it begins to cut, we hear that more accented when we go into G mode. Again, it's the same down the other end. If we go with something like 200 Hertz, let me type that in. 200 Hertz, and I do a big boost. Lower the input a bit in case. Yeah. Or the output. Right. When I switch to G mode from E mode, it just sounds like a little more. It's really hard. It's subtle because it's at the bottom end where frequencies are harder to hear. We're boosting, so it's at the low end, 200 Hertz. So it's coming along, does a little bump, a little cut before it boosts, and you hardly hear that really. If anything, it just gets a little bit softer on the 200 Hertz edge with this. You just perceive that. Don't know if you can hear that, but when you cut, you do hear it. Let's try higher up. 300. Well, you should be able to hear it. Wow, it's a tough. Let's try lower down. Okay, it's really hard to hear, and that's because we're cutting now, full cut at 136. So it's coming along, it's doing a little bump and then cutting down, but you really. It's because it's so down in the frequencies, it's really hard to hear that. But anyway, it seems to be on the money, and it certainly sounds as good as my official SSL 9000K emulation on the Softube Console 1, which is authorized by SSL, and they worked on the product. If you set this and the Softube Console 1 version to exactly the same settings, they don't sound absolutely identical, but you just make the slightest tweak, and maybe just bring the gain a smidge up on one of the mids or something, and then bam, they're there, right? So it seems to be on the money. It's pretty good. So yeah, it's a nice little channel strip. Let's get a sound together on this loop. I'm going to stick at the 150 default for this. Put it into peak, straight away. You hear it tightening up because we're going from a shelve up to a bump. Lovely deep warm bottom end this mixer's got. Okay, and then 700 Hertz, dip down a bit. Then we'll give it some 2K. Just go with this basic. Bit of glisten up the top at 8K. Come on. No. I'm scooping smidge out at 700 here. If I give it some boost. At 600, it's giving a little lower body there. You can hear in G mode these bands are much peakier. Got some real grit. Let's give it some drive as well. Take the dynamics out. That's got some real lovely gritty drive, that. That is cracking. Yeah, and then we got the compressor and the gate. I won't show you the gate on this material. The compressor's the gate's different on this to the British channel, the 4000E emulation I showed you earlier. So yeah, let's get some compression going. No gate. I'll show you that on a kick drum or something. Okay, so 2:1 ratio. I'll spank it with 4:1. And listen to the way it clamps down. Can you hear that? Really hard smack down. Blam! It doesn't have that curved, concave sort of slurp down that the 4000E compressor has. It's a harder, sort of more even smack down. Bam! Like a plank of wood. That's fantastic. I'm giving it a lot of compression. Let's drop the threshold. And just like with the British channel, you've got your high pass and low pass filter, or low cut and high cut as they're commonly called. The high pass 30 Hz to 400 Hz, and the low pass 3K up to 20K. And like on the British channel, the 4000E emulation, these filters can be switched into the dynamic sidechain. You could filter out the bottom end so the bottom end doesn't get compressed. You can filter out the top end so the top end doesn't get compressed, etc. Great sound, man. It's brilliant, this. It'll do really super clean as well as really gritty stuff. Okay, so here's this acoustic guitar thing that I've been playing for the other equalizers, and I got it set up. I've got it set up with a kind of woody tone. On the other equalizers, I used a more scooped out, finer top end and more scooped out sound. But on this one, I'm dipping a little bit at 600 Hz, but I'm giving it a bit of 3K. I'll push this up a bit. Going for a warmer sound, a bit less compression. Driving the channel. Switch to G mode. So I'm giving it some deep 60 Hz on a peak down the bottom there. I'm giving it some wood. Let's go lower it. He said wood. I'm supposed to be on my Beavis and Butthead. Yeah, a little bit lower in that woody tone. 500 Hz. Yeah, a smidge, just a smidge of 3K, but at 10K here, giving it a lot up the top there. So I'm going a more rounded tone on that than usually. I've been doing a more scooped thing like. More like that, but I wanted something a bit more woody this time. That's a lovely channel, this. Let me just show you now on this kick drum. So I've got it on a kick drum here, and I've got it set to this EQ shape with some compression and gating. There's a thunderous bottom end, which this 9000K with the super analog technology was renowned for because of its design. It was very phase coherent. It didn't have much phase shift at all, and virtually no distortion. So that gives you super deep tight bottom end. So I've got a really deep 40 Hz peak boost down here. I'm heavily scooping out at the widest Q at 400 Hz and on the higher mids at 1.4. At again a wide Q, and some 8K click up the top, right, and getting really deep, monstrous thudding kick. So then I've got the gate working here, the compressor's in as well, but let's look at the gate. It's a more comprehensive gate than on the British channel, the 4000D emulation, because you've got a hold control now, right? So I could have the hold completely off and put this to a short release, and I'll get a very gated kick. But with this extra hold control, I can let the gate stay open a little bit to let some body through, so thump, body, and then boom, but shut it down really quick with a really fast release. So I'm just letting the hold keep the gate open, so we hear some of that body get through, then boom, down it shuts with a fast release. Or I can go for a slightly less hold, let a little bit less body through, and a longer release that's not quite so drastic. So you can really tune this gate to get exactly what you want. The compressor has a real hard smackdown, as I showed you already. It doesn't have that slurp that the 4000E has. But it's got some good spank to it, I tell you. Well, that is a monstrously deep kick drum. And super tight. It's a great little channel strip, and you got the best of both worlds with this E and G button. There you go. Really good, really good. Bloody hell! And like all the T-Rex plugins, you've got the mid-side processing here, or left-right can be different. Left can be different to right, or the same. Mid-side, you can do mid-side separate, etc. You get that on all of the EQs. It's a very, very, very useful feature. You've got the constant undo and redo here, which is great, and the bank copying here to set up alternative versions of the same EQ, copy it over to the other banks, tweak it slightly, then switch between them and listen. It's a really nice little channel. It's really good. Distinctly different to the 4000E. If you've got them both, you've got the best of both worlds, really. So, yeah, good little channel. This is the T-Rex white channel. I hope that's useful.